Hi, and welcome to another edition of Seniors Today. I'm your host, Tom Bartee, and our guest today is from Touro University in Vallejo. It's Stacey Pierce-Talsma. I hope I said that right.
You did.
And she's Associate Professor and Chair of Osteopathic Manipulative Medicine at Touro. Mm-hmm. I did it. Well, welcome.
Great job. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, glad you could make it today.
Definitely.
So we had a chance to meet you through the course of my day job, and some of the things that you had to say were just really, to me, fascinating, and I thought it'd be great to have you on the show and share some of your expertise with our viewers. And so maybe we can start by having you explain what osteopathic, what is osteopathic medicine? Is that, I know we have doctors, DOs, Doctor of Osteopathic, we have MDs. How do you define the difference between those two?
That's a great question, and a question that we get asked really frequently, because a lot of people, they may have even seen a DO, but they didn't know that they saw a DO. So maybe your family practitioner or your emergency medicine room doctor was a DO and you didn't know. But there's two ways that you can become a physician in the United States. So one is going to a medical school where you would be granted an MD, and one is going to an osteopathic medical school where you are granted the degree of DO. So both ways, fully licensed physicians. So either of those can become OB gynecologists, can become emergency room physicians, can become family practice doctors, can become surgeons. They all go to the same path. So you graduate medical school and then you go on to residency. And in fact, MDs and DOs will all be doing the same residency programs as of 2020. So that's a new change that just happened. They used to kind of filter into both, but now they're all doing the same residency program. So DOs, just like MDs, 4 years of medical school, then however long their residency training program is before they're out in the world and practicing as a physician. I think the thing that makes us different is that we have an additional about 200 hours of musculoskeletal training. So we have lectures and labs where the students come in and they really learn how to assess and diagnose the musculoskeletal system in a very in-depth way, and not just assess it, but how can they treat it with their hands. So I think that's a great benefit that our students have. They learn all the science and technology that all physicians learn, but they have this added skill that they can use their hands to help you feel better.
So that's more of a holistic way of approaching health?
I think so. Osteopathic medicine, I like to say that it has a foundation, and we call our foundation, there are 4 tenets of osteopathic medicine, and one of them is there is an interconnection of mind, body, and spirit. So maybe when you go see an osteopathic physician, they might ask you extra questions like, how stressed out are you? Or what support systems do you have? Or how important is spirituality in your life? So there might be some additional things, along with the regular questions they might ask you about your diabetes or high blood pressure or back pain. So there's more of this holistic philosophy. And in addition to, the example that I always get is, say you have a cold, a really bad cold. Well, if that cold is a bacterial sinusitis and you need antibiotics, any physician would give you the antibiotics that you need to treat it. But what an osteopathic physician might be able to do is to do some gentle hands-on treatment. And that hands-on treatment might allow things to drain so you don't feel quite so congested. It might help to open things up so that you get better faster and feel better faster. So I think of it as a little bit extra.
Recently, the local chamber had a morning seminar about stress in the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
And it was an eye-opener in some ways. I mean, my training through the corporate world, we dealt with that a lot.
Yeah.
Not just being stressed out ourselves, but trying to help our employees work through it.
Yes.
And it's interesting how stress can cause so many other kinds of illnesses. Your body can be tense, and your muscles being out of synchronization can cause back problems, and I know people with Crohn's disease that stress reactivates the ulceration issue,
Yeah.
And I mean, all kinds of stuff related to that. So I know personally how important that can be to deal with properly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people consider that stress is just in your mind, right? But it's not. As soon as you get stressed, your body starts to secrete hormones and chemicals, and it sends nerve impulses, and that sets a chain of reaction of things that happen in our bodies. And you can even think about if someone jumps out of a closet and scares you, your reaction, you take a big deep breath, maybe your heart starts racing, maybe you start breathing faster. That's our fight or flight response. And now stress, like stress from work, it's a lower level. It's not as much as that, but it's chronic over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So those hormones and chemicals and nerve impulses are just getting secreted, and they affect the way that our bodies work. Mm-hmm. So stress has a very real, very physical role in our body. And muscle tension is another big one, which is why when I see patients come in and maybe their blood pressure is elevated, we need to address their blood pressure with medications, but also I can, work on their shoulders or work on areas that do have that muscular tension because of the stress that they're going under. Mm-hmm. So we want to address the whole person very holistically. You got to address their blood pressure. They have to take their medication. But what else can I do with a hands-on approach and helping them with their stress in order to really take care of that patient in front of me?
Mm-hmm. So maybe a normal doctor, a medical doctor, would issue anti-inflammatory or a muscle relaxer or something like that, where a DO would say, well, what's the source of the problem? Let's deal with that, and that might be manipulation or something else other than just a pharmaceutical solution.
Yeah, definitely. And I love and hate the example of low back pain. I don't like it because I don't like manipulation to just people only think about it when they're in pain, because manipulation can be used for so many more things in pain. We treat babies, we treat elderly people, it helps with balance, we treat headaches, people come in with asthma, we can help get the ribs moving. So I don't like people to only think about manipulation for pain, but low back pain is a perfect example because almost all of low back pain is just musculoskeletal. It's not a herniated disc, it's not cancer, it's really has to do with your muscles, and we have a way to diagnose and treat that. And then we also can give stretches and exercises, so you go home and you're part of the treatment process. Then we partner with you mm-hmm. to say, well, what's going to work? What do you need to be up and doing and functional? Do you need a medication? Can we put a heat pack on? Can we do some manipulation? Do you need physical therapy? And really incorporate all of that in together.
Touro University does a lot of community outreach, mm-hmm. and maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of the things that you and your students provide for the community.
Yeah, we have really great students who are really dedicated to serving the Vallejo community, and that's really important to us. It's part of our mission of our school, and I know that a lot of people don't even know we're there on Mare Island, mm-hmm. But we try to get out into our community as much as we can. It's really our goal to make an impact on the health of the Vallejo community. Our physicians, our family practice physicians, and our OMM docs, people like me who do manipulation, we work out of the Solano County health clinics here in Vallejo and also in Fairfield and Vacaville. And we also have a student-run free clinic. And this is really great because the students run it themselves. They organize it, they set up the patients, they set up the room, and it's free of charge to anyone who wants to come. You just come get signed up. And they do several services. They can do diabetes screening. They have people who work with you if you have diabetes. It's a diabetes program that can help you better manage your diabetes. They can go through medications with you. So Touro also has a pharmacy school. They have pharmacy students there that can go through and answer questions that you might have about your medications. And then there's OMM, which is the manipulation, and you can come in and experience what a treatment is like. And that's with our students, but the faculty are there precepting. And that's every Thursday at the Vallejo Community Center.
The King Center?
Yes, at the King Center.
South Vallejo?
Yes.
At what time?
It's usually, I think it starts at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8. And you can go online and look up student-run free clinic, and that it should pull up a phone number that you're able to call. I'm sorry I don't know it off the top of my head.
So you have appointments or drop-in or both?
There are typically appointments, but I know that people do drop in. There's not a guarantee because we do have appointments, but if there's an open spot, we would certainly love to see people in Vallejo.
So many people go to a chiropractor for symptomatic pain, mostly back and neck, and you're suggesting that maybe going to see a DO for a different approach to that might give you a longer-term solution?
Possibly. It's people always say, how are osteopathic physicians different from chiropractor? I mean, the biggest difference is that we become physicians, and chiropractors are not physicians; they're chiropractors. I don't have anything against chiropractic viewpoint. In fact, I have a lot of patients that I share with chiropractors. They have a slightly different way of looking at it than we do. You know, there's massage, and there's chiropractic, and there's Rolfers, which do like very deep tissue work, and then there's osteopathic manipulative medicine. And we all kind of have a little bit different way of looking at it. I don't believe that any way is right or wrong, and some people will find benefit from one type of practitioner than another. As an osteopathic physician, I like what we do because we have all different kinds of manipulation. So some things we do some cracking things that look very much like chiropractics. We do some soft tissue things that look or feel like massage. And we do some things where we ask you to move a muscle. So maybe I would move your arm and have you push against me. So we have you involved in some of the treatment. And then there's some things where it might feel like I have my hands under your back and you're like, is she doing anything at all? And I am. It doesn't necessarily feel like anything. So we have a very wide range of techniques that we use. And I think that we look at things beyond the spine. We look at the whole musculoskeletal system. So are the muscles tight in that area? How are the joints moving? And then there's this thing called fascia. So I like to describe fascia as like the saran wrap that wraps around all your muscles, and it's interconnected through your whole body. So you can have really tight areas of fascia that might need to be released in that area as well. So we try to really think about everything, the whole body, head to toe.
I like that. Acupuncture is another thing. Do you do any of that in your work?
Some physicians do use acupuncture in their work. I don't use it in mine. I'm still learning and practicing my specialty, and acupuncture is a whole separate way of looking at health and well-being, I think. I love acupuncture. I have it done. In fact, my husband just had an acupuncture appointment today. It's very relaxing. And that really works with energy channels in the body that they call meridians, and they use the acupuncture needles in order to open up energy channels. With osteopathic manipulative medicine, we don't utilize energy channels, but I think if there's people out there doing it, that would be a great combination.
Are you familiar with Bowen's technique?
Bowen's? I have not heard of that.
Well, I had someone sell me on it, or at least trying it.
Yeah.
And it was like putting pressure on one spot and doing it for 30 seconds and then releasing it. And then doing it at another spot to it's kind of like working on the channels and redirecting the energy. And then supposedly you do it right and everything goes
and let's
like
go.
that eventually. But it never worked for me.
So
I
wasn't your thing.
Yeah, I thought, man, I just wasted $50 or whatever it was. But another thing that you are an expert on, I guess, is yoga. And I know that you probably have an opportunity to share your knowledge around the country in different settings and seminars or whatever. And of course, we focus on yoga for seniors, which I know yoga in general could be very, very kinetic, or it can be sort of passive. And of course, today we have our microphones and everything on. So would there be any easy types of like yoga in a chair that you might be able to share with our audience?
Yeah, of course. I love yoga in a chair because I think a lot of people think about yoga as standing on your head or doing some other kind of crazy pose that you couldn't imagine doing. And really, that's not what yoga is at all. Yoga is about being in a posture and bringing your awareness to every part of your body in that posture and breathing. And so you can just be resting comfortably in a chair and doing yoga. And my teacher used to say, you could be standing on your head and not doing yoga. Because if you don't have awareness, if you don't have breath around it, then you're just doing aerobics. You're just doing gymnastics. You're not doing yoga anymore. So the point of yoga means to yoke. So it's to bring together the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I really like it because it's a way for me to attune to my day, attune to my body, what's going on, figuring out what's tight, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. Oh yeah, I've been sitting in this particular way for a while. How can I release my back? And so I'll even at my work take a little 5-minute yoga break and just do yoga in my office on my chair just to get myself moving a little bit. So if you'd like, I can take you through kind of what I do on my chair at work.
That'd be great.
Okay, that's great. So let's start. Make sure that you're sitting nice and upright on your sits bones.
I'm going to try to follow you.
Great, and your feet are nice and flat on the floor.
Okay.
And you can rest your palms gently on your knees, and then just close your eyes for a moment. And just start by noticing your breath. And just notice if you feel any areas of tension as you're breathing. Where does your breath come easy? Where does it feel like maybe it gets a little stuck? And notice, is your heart beating fast or slow? Can you feel your pulse? And does your breath feel smooth? Does it feel calm? Does it feel steady? And just notice your feet making contact with the floor and your sits bones, so those two bones that we sit on, making contact with the chair. And just notice that contact, and notice that as you're paying attention to your body, as you're listening to your breath, you can't think about all those things that might be stressing you out. So you just let them go. And maybe you can even begin to lengthen your exhale just a little bit. So sometimes we like to count, so I might inhale to a count of 3 and exhale to a count of 5. But don't do anything that's forced or that feels uncomfortable. Just, you're being gentle with yourself here. So we'll take one more breath here. Right, and then we'll go ahead and gently open our eyes, and just staying in this position, I like to kind of sit forward on my chair a little bit. We're going to move through cat and cow in our chair. So you come forward, your chest comes forward, and you draw your shoulders back, head draws back. And then as you exhale, round everything forward, like you're rounding your back like a Halloween cat. And then as you inhale, you're going to come forward again, and you move with your breath at your comfort level. I always tell my students, this is your body. You do what feels comfortable in your body, because I don't know what your body feels like. And just moving back and forth. And noticing how maybe on each breath you get a little bit more movement, a little bit more freedom. You can create a little bit more space. Maybe as you're doing this, you notice that your breaths are getting a little bit longer.
What happens if you start snoring?
That's good. The relaxation has kicked in.
Okay.
And we'll come back to the center. So in yoga, we like to move the spine in multiple different ways. So this was extension and flexion. Now we're going to do side bending. So I like to inhale, rise really tall, and exhale, I lean to a side. And then inhale, back to center, and exhale, and lean to the other side. And then coming back up, and if you want to add, you can always bring an arm up. So as I lean to this side, I can get a little bit more of a stretch. And then as I come back up, I can rest that hand down and then stretch the other side. Perfect. Good. And I'll usually do this for like 3 or 5 cycles, just kind of opening up that side body a little bit. So then we like to do rotation. So I'll inhale and turn, and exhale and twist back to the center. And then inhale to the other side, and exhale back to the center. Good. And again, you can do that several times. So you can see as we're doing it, you're listening to your body. What feels good? What doesn't feel good? What's going on with my posture? So it starts to clue you into where you might be getting tight. Mm-hmm. You can also, just while you're sitting right here, kind of stretch your legs out. So maybe you have something out in front of you, and you can kind of lean over and forward and get a little stretch of your back. And inhale and rise back up. Again, it's what feels comfortable to you and your back. Commonly, things like hips will get tight when we do a lot of sitting. So I'll try to bring a leg up this way and then let that hip fall out to the side. Yeah, great. And you can probably feel that stretch. Yeah, let that knee just fall out to the side. That's perfect. Can you feel that stretch?
Yeah, right by the hip.
Yeah, and that's a really common area where people get tight and they get pain, sometimes even pain that can radiate down their leg. And if you can't get this far, that's actually really good. You might look like this, and that's okay too. It's wherever you start from, as long as you feel that stretch in your leg. And whatever we do to one side, we always try to do to the other side.
Is that good for sciatica too?
Very good. This is a very common stretch that I give for sciatica as well. Great. Yeah, and I like how that knee is just coming down, and that's a really good stretch. Again, some people won't be able to get into this position, but you can just kind of cross wherever you're at. You can even cross down below and just begin to get that stretch.
Wow. That feels pretty good. I'm ready to go.
Feels stretched out already. And then the thing that we always do, this is the reason why people do yoga, is the shavasana at the end, right? The total relaxation. So in my chair at work, after I do my stretches, I go back to closing my eyes. I go back to checking in with my breath, and I see, all right, what changes did I make after I do my practice? And usually what I notice is my breathing is a lot smoother. I feel slowed down and not quite so frantic. Maybe my heart rate has calmed down. And suddenly, if I noticed any areas where I had restricted breathing before, usually it's like in my ribs or my diaphragm here, that'll feel so much more open because we opened it with the twisting and the side bending and the forward bend. So that all feels a lot better. And it usually just takes me 5 minutes.
So how many times would you do that in a day?
I might only do that 1 or 2 times during my day, but I'm also doing a very lengthy yoga practice in the morning typically. Yeah. So this is kind of just fine-tuning. Mm-hmm. There are lots of yoga classes that you can look for online. I usually like to look up the word beginner or hatha yoga because that's usually like a slower, more breath-focused yoga. Mm-hmm. Certainly looking up chair yoga would be a great place to start because they're going to demonstrate how you can do it in a chair and might be able to move from the chair into standing positions. And the biggest key about yoga is don't try to push or do anything that you can't. That's how you're going to get injured. If you're listening to your body and everything's feeling good, you're okay. But the second you start to move into pain, that's when you're going to start to have problems.
I remember being on a commercial airline flight, and they showed us how to do stretching while you're in your chair, mm-hmm. which is, it's basically the same thing. And I guess, that was years ago, but that was my first introduction to the concept.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Well, that's cool. So we only have a couple minutes left, mm-hmm. But it's a couple relaxing minutes. And is there anything that you wanted to cover in the last few minutes that we have?
Yeah, I am just so excited to be here and share, what we're doing on Mare Island at Toro with everyone here. We have the most amazing students. They go out and they practice all over California, all over the nation, but we really practice all over California and even stay, serving in this area, and often our students are rotating in this area. So if you see one of our students, say hello. They're in rotations even at North Bay and some of the Kaiser systems and things like that. So yeah, come see us at the Student Run Free Clinic. We have a Mobec diabetes van that you might see around town where they go out to community events and they do free diabetes screening. Toro does a lot of research on diabetes and obesity and inflammation, and we're really looking to improve the health of our community. So I think we're doing some really exciting things that way.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I know that Vallejo is trying to brand itself as a university town, and Toro definitely puts us on the map.
Very good.
In that regard. It's a great institution, and clearly we see that they have great associate professors
That's right.
and chairs of the OMM department.
Exactly.
So thank you for being here today, and maybe we'll have you back on again sometime.
Sounds great. I would love that. Thank you.
Cool. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Our show airs at 6 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays on Comcast 27, AT&T UVerse 99, and streaming live video at vcat.tv. Come see us again next time.